Greetings, everybody. There's three kinds of people. On one hand, you have the individual who finds themselves in the wrong skin, misplaced identity. They often portray themselves in ways that are meek, weak, and unconfident. Let me tell y'all something. This morning, I found myself in that very position, primarily because I found myself in sleep paralysis. And the immediate thought that I had was one of, I've been here before, and oh no, not this entity again. The dream itself was pretty cool. It was relatively memorable, and it ended with that quote. There's three kinds of people, and I quote, one is the one who is in the wrong skin, often portraying themselves as weak and unconfident, misapplied identity. And then the vision goes black, and the position that I'm laid in bed begins to become obstructed. By that I mean, I feel a body and hear a voice. The body kind of forces itself under my arm and almost seems to be trying to cuddle with me. But it is the little spoon. I am the big spoon. But I knew the entity. It was not a woman. It was more so the figure of an old man. 1 second. It's very fitting, actually. There's a fictional character known as SCP-106. Feel free to Google that, but not if you're eating. And it was a figure not identical to that one, but quite reminiscent, right? My eyes were closed, but I knew the figure because it had been in past sleep paralysis experiences. And in this instance, my next thought was, I should call my mother. And my next thought was, I can handle it. Jesus is my Lord. And when that thought came, ever confidently and assuredly, the sleep paralysis ended and I woke up. Not only did I wake up, but there was actually very little fear in my heart. It seemed as though it was abundantly clear that whatever was in my room was still in my room. But why should I care? Jesus is my Lord. And that thought kept repeating. There were various visions that came to my mind as I was reflecting and taking notes. I couldn't help but notice over the last 48 to 72 hours, by this point, I had been out of line. Now, it wasn't necessarily I'm going to be disobedient for disobedience sake, or I'm going to be disobedient because there's other things I really want to be doing instead. Respectfully, I was weak and unconfident, misapplied identity. On one hand, I was placing my value a decent bit, at least as a minister and a man of God, in this very YouTube channel. My last video, I thought it was straight. I thought it was straight. When I went to bed, I think it had like 0 views still. And it reminded me of when I started this channel, when I talked about the case for the resurrection of Jesus, and I'm thinking this content is needed for the community, but if nobody sees it, why am I even doing this work? And so my first thought when looking at this, if it's not being engaged with, that means I need to do something differently. So I'm going to begin to study how to better storytell and speech write so that when I'm crafting the scripts for these videos, it's more entertaining, it's more alluring. I keep and hold my audience. In that way, what I need to say and what needs to be heard will be put right in front of them. You know where this went though. I became weak and unconfident as I let that very initial thought of why am I even doing this if it's not being received? Clearly, this ministry is not needed. Not just become a seed, but become watered. The vision that I had as I reflected on this was one simply of my bathroom door being open, but it was straight up darkness. There was no noise. I don't even know if there was anything in the bathroom. It was just that allure of void. Now, if you look back at the Genesis through the Bible series, the first couple of videos, there's a very consistent theme of darkness and void preceding light. But in the face of that darkness, in the presence, honestly, it's quite despair-filled. When there is no light, you just don't know. It's void, it's desolate, just feels like a whole lot of decay. And I found myself finally getting out of that box. Jesus is my Lord. And I found myself reflecting upon the various behaviors that only further influenced being in the wrong skin. And the next vision that came to my mind was very similar to the dream, except it was reversed. It was of a rotted, decaying hand wrapping around me as I laid, cuddling almost as the big spoon. And these were the decaying thoughts. From your thoughts, so your words come. From your words come, your actions lead. What your actions lead to creates your habits. Habits determine behaviors. Behaviors create your identity. It begins from the mind and it begins from the heart. If you let that get out of check, so too goes your life, right? A decaying hand that holds you close. And in the vision, when I acknowledged the hand as something that was not good for me, it attacked me. It went for the vitals, either the face, which isn't really a vital, or the eyes, or the throat. It seems as though it holds you warm. It gives you company. It doesn't leave you alone and in your misery, but it further perpetuates it. It says that the things that bring you to the light, the things that make you whole, confident, and strong, you don't need, because it has you and you have it. You know, misery enjoys company. You know, there comes a point in which an individual has been depressed for so long that though they may say they desire happiness, when they have it, low-key, they hate it. When they have it, oftentimes they resort back to toxic behaviors and mannerisms, and it's no fault to theirs. The healing process is a long one. But in that moment, the decay has not fully receded. All that they've done is acknowledge it, but they still have to defend against its attacks. The saying, bad habits die hard, but you already know what I'm about to say. Jesus is my Lord. The last vision that I had was simply one of a gigantic black slug creeping towards my bed. Even if you overcome the trials of the very moment, I want you to never let down your guard. Now, by that, I don't mean never be vulnerable with people. By that, I mean whenever you find those habits that make you strong, that keep you confident, that keep you in your right identity, keep doing it. Something I also seem to notice is that in these times when I am in my lowest, lo and behold, when's the last time that I prayed? How much did I meditate that day? When's the last time I went to church? When's the last time I opened my Bible, studied it, read it, talked about it with somebody else, meditated upon it? Shoot, did I even work out today? It doesn't even just become a matter of my spiritual life is out of whack. Not only is my spiritual life out of whack, but it seems as though the rest of my life has been thrown off track. Isn't it intriguing? You must stay strong. And by that, I mean what determines your long-term success or failure is your systems. Systems determine success. Now, systems are reflected in day-by-day decisions, but the question is, are you living solely spontaneously, or is there something deeper underlying this? A structure that you have to hit each day. Previously, over the last couple of weeks, that was the very thing I was trying to implement. And perhaps the main reflector of my weakness and unconfidence was that though I saw it very much working and my life visibly changing, I said I wasn't going to do it anymore. I didn't have a rational reason. I pointed back to the fact that this one thing, if it's not being seen, does it matter? If I am not seen, why do I need to improve? If I'm not seen, why am I here? May I remind you, Jesus is my Lord. This is not my current situation, but it's one that I was just in. And though it was short, it's a reflection of much longer seasons of time that I've been in. The reason why I can get out of it so quickly is because, again, I have the systems. When I woke up this morning, do you know what I was deciding on doing 100%? I knew I was doing today? Restarting the system. Though I had stopped it for a few days, I saw the effects of it. Your systems determine your success. And one of the most important things that I need you to consider is, do you need help? Do you need help? If you're watching this video, there's a great chance that you are like me not too long ago. And by not too long ago, I mean last night. Specifically, you are too weak to admit that you need help. For years of my life, I was never strong enough to say, I need help. I need help. I'm not saying that now, it's for rhetorical purposes. It was only this week that, well, I guess today's Sunday, so last week, that I got an accountability partner. Shoot, I've known about having an accountability partner since I was in like elementary school. Of course, it wasn't necessary back then, but even when I recognized its necessity, I didn't get one until years down the road. It is fair to point out I tried once in high school, and because that didn't work out, it really did kill my momentum for it. You just gotta keep fighting. You know, great things are worth fighting for. This is actually my third time, maybe my fifth, between 3 and 5 times of trying to find an accountability partner. None of the previous ones were good fits. Whether they already had people they were seeking accountability with, they didn't see the need for accountability, or they just totally were too busy to do it. Too busy. Even this instance, just to show you how simple it is, each morning we send each other a text. Over the last 24 hours, did you succeed against the vice you want me to hold you accountable for? And vice versa. Usually the answer is yes and ditto. Pretty sure you can guess who says ditto. It's me if you couldn't guess. I love unique words. Anyways, you need help. At least most likely if you're here. Now let's read a little bit of the Bible. Let's look at one verse in particular and then we may jump to another one. We'll see. Colossians 3:2 reads, "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." And I hadn't actually been in church, like on a regular Sunday service, for maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month. Now, one could argue that the past weeks I actually had good reason for it. On one hand, I was super exhausted because Saturdays are usually my longest days. And on another hand, I would just go to a different service throughout the week. I knew that wouldn't be that will be the case this week. No, it won't be. That'll be the case next week where I'll be doubling up. So yeah, I knew that wouldn't be the case this week. But last night, I'm going to sleep thinking, whenever I wake up is when I wake up. I have no intentions of going to church. This morning, of course, I wake up super early because of the dream. And because of how significant the dream is, I can't go back to sleep. I'm finally tuning into church. It's a church I've never actually been at. It's called 2819. I tried to go once, couldn't get in. It was like 30 minutes early, but it was already to capacity. Anyways, one thing that the pastor mentioned about this verse was that it says set. It doesn't say your mind fluctuate on things above. It says set. It doesn't say occasionally set. It says set. Again, I remind you of the utter need for consistency, because it's almost as though you have a salesman trying to sell you something at your front door. If you open that door and try and close it, depending on the persistence of this salesman, they'll put their foot in the door. They won't want you to block them out. If you open the door a crack, they'll try and push it wide open because they recognize they have more leverage if it's fully face to face. If they want to show you an application, perhaps they'll start to lean on your door frame. They're already working their way in. Just imagine they're trying to sell you knives, so they say, let's walk to your kitchen. I'll show you right now. Step by step, by step, by step, by step, by step. And then the next thing you know, you have a set of knives you don't even need. And since they sold it to you, let them have another gig they want for you and they'll be right back around. The persistent salesman in this instance is temptation. And it seems to always come back and back and back again. You gotta kill it. Because many times, for most temptations, they're like ravenous beasts. They either say, feed me or kill me. But we cannot both coexist in peace. If you do not feed me, I will begin to consume you. You must feed me or kill me. It's just interesting to see that every time we feed those beasts, though they sell us the promise that if you feed me, I will go to sleep and I will leave you alone for a time. If you buy this product, I will leave you alone for a time. It always takes a piece of you with it anyway. A promise of leaving you alone, but it never leaves you without taking far more than it gives you. If you care about yourself, about your future, about your potential, you must kill that temptation. Now, the temptation will probably always remain. One thing that I've never quite appreciated about testimonies or deliverances from highly addictive sins is that oftentimes they'll make it appear as though once you're delivered, that you legitimately never struggle or are tempted again. I digress. I highly disagree. Not just on the basis of my own testimony, but directly talking with people. Shoot, I recorded a podcast with several brothers in the past, and I found it fascinating how on the podcast, we actually kind of had that energy. We're delivered, we're good, we do not succumb to the sin like that anymore. But then once the podcast ended some days later, we were talking about it. How, yeah, I'm still tempted with that sin. May not succumb to the sin, but the temptation still falls upon you. It could be every day, it could be every week, it could be every month. Point is, the temptation still falls upon me. And this is why I say two things. One, never lower your defense, because that beast and that salesman, though dead, seems to want to come back to life. But one last note for that is that zombies are weaker than humans. It's a rotting corpse. If you feed it, it grows strong. But if it's dead and walking, it's a whole lot weaker. The second thing is you need help. Even if you've overcome your sin, you need help in the sense of accountability and having a support circle that further strengthens you. Because truth is, no human is perfect and all of us will have bad days. When you are weak, who will make sure that you do not fail again? Who will make sure that you do not give in to the salesman or feed the beast? You need help, not because you are in the wrong skin. You might be, but you need help because of the fact that we have skin. Our humanity is the very reason why walking this walk alone is destined for failure. I promise you that no matter how strong you believe you are, if you do this alone, failure is your destination. But if you do it together, now we talking. Let's read another verse right quick. I'm looking at Isaiah 30:17. 1,000 will flee at the threat of one. At the threat of 5, you will all flee away. So you are left like a flagstaff on a mountaintop, like a banner on a hill. There is power in unity, power in fellowship. And I tell you this, if you find yourself still too weak to say that I need help, at the very least seek help from God. Begin there. Seek Him in prayer, talking about how you are feeling, being honest with Him since He knows your heart better than you do anyways. And seek His aid in even finding community and finding accountability that will best suit you. This video is unlisted, but I used to be in a cult. And I will tell you this, one thing cults do well is love and provide community. It is community, but it's the wrong community. Seek God, have discernment in everything. Stay active in your scripture, stay active in your prayer, and do your best to find community. You need help. I love you.